Regional Hospital District at 9 a.m. and look for a motion to adopt the agenda as circulated. Moved. Second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. We got some minutes to adopt. Recommendation is that the March 20th, 2025 minutes of the Okanagan-Similkameen Regional Hospital District Board be adopted. Moved. Second. Any further discussion on those minutes? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And our one business item, the Okanagan-Similkameen Regional Hospital District 2025 budget amendments. I will pass this over to our CAO.
Thank you, Chair. So for 2025, the budget for IHA was adopted with a 10% cut. Their actual request was 40%. That 10% cut resulted in 2.5 projects that will have to be eliminated. IHA came back to staff and stated, is there any way they can take it back to the board and add $143,412, which would then mean only 2 full projects would be cut instead of 2.5. The 2.5 means 3. So with that, there is a recommended motion, and staff's here to answer questions on what those 2 projects would be. The third one, I don't believe as of today, they had not gotten back to us what it would be if the board says no. So the recommended motion is that the board of the regional district amend the 2025-2029 hospital budget by increasing the 2025 budget by $143,412, and that the additional funds of the Interior Health Authority be funded from reserves, and that the additional funding received in the amount of $492,230 be allocated to the Capital Reserve Fund, and that the Okanagan-Similkameen Regional Hospital District 2025 to 2029 5-year financial plan be amended by bylaw 172.01 2025 be read a first, second, third time adopted. And going back to explain where that $492,000 came from, that's because it's one of the few projects that, from what I see, is under budget. So during the last all these umpteen years, we've been slowly paying. They finally finalized the costs, and it was good to see that is just our portion. The province, their 60% is that much more, obviously, and it's good to see that money went back into the taxpayers' pockets, and staff's here to answer questions.
Thanks, CEO. I can offer something on the 2 projects that are being canceled. McKinney Place Facility Bus was the one project that's being canceled, and the McKinney Place Nurse Call System is the other project that's being canceled. So unfortunately, both in Oliver. The third project that is likely to be impacted is the PRH Medical Gas Project, which was delayed last year when we didn't provide full funding as well. So it would be good to provide the additional funding and make sure that that project does get completed. What else have I got to add? I have something for later, but that's it. I'll go to Director Gettins and then Director McCordoff.
I'll make the recommendation. Move the recommendation.
Okay. Second. Okay. It's on the floor. Director
Can I just mention something? So you've said that the bus, McKinney bus, that project has been canceled. I did talk to Madeline and to Marie Zatar, and had them both on an email. And I suggested that they work together because the bus that McKinney wanted was exactly the same as the bus that Desert Sun had. And they seemed to be willing to do that. Have we heard whether that's happening or not? I haven't heard.
I have not heard. I
Okay,
have not heard
maybe
that
I'll
either.
follow up on
Yeah,
that.
I think it would be worthwhile.
Thank you.
CAO?
So I did connect the 2 together, but I also have not heard that they are in communications and trying to come up with a plan that would work for both of them. That's the last update I had.
Okay. I'll just add, I got this added to everybody's folder here today. So this was a letter that I hand delivered to Minister Josie Osborne, Minister of Health, last week, and asking for the additional money that wasn't funded to be funded. Didn't get a yes or a no, but it was a good discussion. It's clear that there's a lot of tinkering and looking going on, especially with the ongoing health authority review that's taking place right now. And the regional hospital districts are definitely going to be part of that review. It's clear that things are not working. A couple things that are being looked at is even the need potentially for hospital districts. That would be a stretch for sure, but we've got 7 hospital districts in our regional hospital district, and I think the next closest one is 3, and then 1. The Lower Mainland is treated a little bit different than that. One of the things that was being looked at is transfer hospitals being funded by the province as opposed to hospital districts, because you can imagine in Kelowna, a part of CORD there are paying for that hospital and all the upgrades there, yet the hospital is a place where people are being transferred all over the province for cardiac and oncology, so why should just CORD be paying for that? That would affect Kamloops. I'm not sure whether Penticton would be in that group or not. Potentially some of it, but that's some of the things that are going on there as well. So things are being looked at, and the reduced funding that's being provided by our hospital district is, I think, making that conversation come to the forefront. Director Monteith.
Thank you. To the chair, could you remind me how much is in the reserves and if that is an appropriate amount to be keeping in reserves, the amount that we have?
I can ask staff to provide that, but I think when we did adopted the bylaw, we decided that our reserves were very, very low. And I was at a RHD chair meeting on April 3rd, and then also a RHD chair meeting with IH. And it sounds like the taxation model that's being used by some other regional districts is a flat rate, which is considerably more than we are paying. I think typical line item in our property taxes is in the 150, 125, 175 range. Some of the other hospital districts are charging in the neighborhood of $75 per 100,000 parcel tax, which could get you easily into the 400 range. But their reserves are in the 80 to 100 million range, and ours are somewhere in the 5-6 million range at this point in time. So we are way behind. CAO?
So while staff's looking up what's in the reserves, it's hard to say, if not impossible, if we have the appropriate amount of reserves, because we don't have a capital plan. We don't know what hospitals are scheduled. We get a 3-year budget now on operational, on the equipment. However, if there's going to be a new hospital in Oliver, Princeton, et cetera, then we could say how much we need to have. Do we have enough? No. You can see it. We borrowed just over $68 million for the hospital here. That's no way. There's no way we could even raise anywhere close to 68 million in reserves. And I'll see. Well, I can't talk anymore. You're going to have to get the answer. Staff is looking for it. There. Okay.
Okay, so the approximate ending balance is in 2024 I was 8.6 million, and then at the end of 2025 we have the estimate being 6.6 million.
Any other questions? Then I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And I think that's all I've got today. I already talked about the meeting with Minister Osborne. Interested to see that conversation continue. She was very, very receptive, and I really enjoyed talking to Minister Osborne. She has been a mayor before and a chair of the regional district there, and has been, fighting for these things. It's interesting now she's on the inside, so I really feel that she has, that I feel supported for sure, and a total understanding of the issues, and just brings a different look than Minister Dix brought to the problems that we're having, as she has been fighting to make changes as well. So with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Move second. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Johansson. We go to Community Services. Director Monteith does normally chair this, but is online and asked if someone else would do it, which is normally Director Conans, who's unavailable, so I will chair today's meeting unless there's someone else who wants to do it. Okay, looking for a motion to approve the agenda. Moved, seconded. Thank you. All those in favor? Great. Any opposed? Motion carries. The one item on today's agenda is the delegation for the Valley Rail Initiative. I'm going to the CAO.
Thank you. As you stated, this is a delegation. Mr. Gordon Lovegrove is here from the UBC School of Engineering, and he's here to provide the Valley Rail Initiative, which this is close to my heart. My dad used to work for the KBR, so I actually was on it when it was a railroad. So I'm looking forward to this. I will then pass this over to you, sir.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, everyone. It's very good to be here. I'm here wearing my UBC hat. Please don't look at me as a politician. I think many of you may know I'm also a city councilor with Kelowna. So I'm here to talk about UBC research on a vision that actually my students first introduced to me 20 years ago at UBC when we started the school. And so after 20 years of research, we've now published recently 2 papers in Sustainability Journal. We've been answering questions along that way on the technical and economic feasibility of a technology that's been running called tram trains in Karlsruhe, Germany for over 40 years. To make it more affordable here, we suggested no overhead wires and all the added doubling effectively of the cost to power its electric motors. Instead, we're using made in Canada hydrogen fuel cell technology. And this is not a toy. It's actually a recent 3D print job from one of my 21-year-old undergraduate students who just said, Dr. Lovegrove, do you mind if I take a shot at this? So this is actually G-scale, authentic scale, and it shows fuel cells, batteries, hydrogen fuel storage, and on the roof, the computer control system for the train that just fine gentleman here was responsible for getting in Germany. So it's the first one in the world that actually has been in commercial operations since 2018. And so I want to introduce to you who will do the rest of the speaking, and I'll just control slides for him. Dr. Holger Busche has been my research collaborator and actually co-author on those papers that recently came out because there have been a lot of questions. You can appreciate one of them is, why would we even think about rail connecting this valley? So with that, I introduced to you Holger Busche. Maybe just before you start, I also want to introduce my graduate student, one of our graduate student researchers, Jonathan Kettle, who's actually just started in the last year, and he's a mechanical engineering student looking at a retrofit project, but also looking at research related to this project in terms of leadership and where we go from here. And at this point, we're here to just share the level of research and some initial comments and feedback we've had from folks in the Valley communities, including North, Central, and now South. So thank you so much for your time.
Okay, please go ahead.
I hope I can be heard. So thanks a lot for allowing me, dear representatives. Good morning. My name is Holger Busche. I'm actually a geophysicist, but I was a scientific advisor to the provincial parliament of Northern Germany, which is Schleswig-Holstein, next to Denmark. I used to do this for 11 years and several things. I was also wearing different hats, like you said, wearing the scientific hat today. So I'm trying to tell why it might be a good idea to have trains. As you can see, you have lots of space in the trains, makes your life much easier if you can travel around without needing a car, which is quite important for a lot of people who are not able to drive, whether they don't want to, they can afford it, or they just have not the ability to do so. So there's quite a lot of what we call in Germany some kind of a mobility poverty. So you have problems because you just don't get where you need to go to, for example, in a hospital or doctors or whatsoever, or just even visit your grandchildren because you're just too old. So that's a big advantage of a transit system, and a rail-based transit system makes even much more possibilities to show up that you have nicer scenery in the city, as you have just seen on the picture with the green grass railway. So it makes your city nicer and more resilient to climate change and heat and rise, as you see on the bottom on the left. And on the very bottom down there, you see it's always in combination with the buses. And the experience in Germany is if you introduce some kind of a train system, you have more people riding the bus in the local areas. So that's quite an interesting fact because people tend to use more trains on longer distance intercities, just like going from Penticton to say Kelowna or whatever. So if you continue to see, you have lots of reasons why you should improve your transit system and use a railway system for this one. Reduce congestion, because, I mean, as a German, you come in, Germany has 1/3 of the size of British Columbia and about 83 million people. So you considered Canada to be almost empty. And I came in and thought there should never be a traffic jam in Canada. And I was proved wrong. And and the other story is, housing must be really cheap in Canada. And I was proven wrong. So if you stay at affordable prices, you're staying out of town, and then you have to get to in town. Or the other way around, if you stay in town, you want to go to a lovely place. Well, it all helps you a lot of problems, solving a lot of problems. If you have a really good train system about it, you see some of the effects in here. And yes, there has to be an investment to be done. But if you split over this investment over 30 years, for example, of a life cycle cost, you will find out it's not that much, even if it sounds like a big number in the beginning. But what you actually do is you invest money to save operational costs per year. At the end of the day, you will figure out, as we did in my hometown in northern Germany, we made a comparison in between the bus transit system and the railway-based tram system, including improved bus system. You figure out that the investment made it so much cheaper that it's better to invest the money for the train, having lower operational costs at the end of the day after 30 years. And if you can make this rough calculation, of course, we have to prove this by a better, more detailed study, you will find out it's not really that much. At the end of the day, if every family, for example, if you consider the valley for having 200,000 households or families, let's say, and just buy one tank of fuel for unlimited travel in the valley per month. So how much fuel do you spend to get your daughters home? And if you do so, you will find out if she can, well, of course, if you have a son, he can also do so. Getting home alone, that makes your life much easier. You save money, you save your cars, you save maybe a third car, you maybe save your time, actually, because you don't have to go both ways, getting from the swimming pool and come back. So that's all can be developed, and this amount that you have to pay as a resident would be reduced even if you make tourists participate in the financial system. So if they come in and buy the ticket also, that may help you, of course, reducing the cost per ticket. And developers, I mean, imagine how much you can develop if you can, if the distance doesn't matter that much anymore, because people can go wherever they want it. So the question is, installing a train system sounds like, well, I never will see this. Well, I'm a geophysicist thinking in millions of years, but of course you don't have the time for that. But it can happen. We've seen it all over the world. You find the correct partners, a leadership and governance, and it should come from the bottom. That's the most important thing. It's nothing that should come from somewhere, from Ottawa maybe and say, you have to build in this system. It should be the idea of the region, of the community saying, how can we improve our situation locally? And then get it fixed together as a valley or region or however you set your limits on this. And that's why I recommend to have some kind of an initial planning study. That's about 3 million Canadian dollars to start a planning, which actually shows you at the end of the study, which we did in Kiel. And this one will show how to get from where to where. So if you're asking, how can I get from Penticton, Main Street, 500, whatever, to Kelowna downtown, or maybe to Kelowna General Hospital, because we might have some kind of a treatment there. This study will show you in an exact timetable also how long it takes, where you change, how your bus connection is going to be, how it does improve your bus connection within the city, because if you have a railway or LRT, light rail transit, how to get from your personal home to that place. And then after that, there will be some engineering being done, compare how can we install rails or the technical blah blah that you have at the end of the story, intersections, crossings, lightning, or whatsoever you find out. And the most important thing is, if you have this, you have the numbers in comparison to different possibilities that you want to compare. And it shows you which way of options you have to finance that thing, and how you're best integrated into your hometowns and so on. I think that might be the best if I stop in here for the moment. And I'm pretty welcome any question to go with this, and I hope my English was sufficient for this. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, can I just?
Sure, go ahead.
One 30-second insert, and that is, I forgot to say that we studied the Okanagan Valley, and we're obviously talking to you today in the Okanagan Valley, but recognizing there are communities here that aren't on Highway 97 in this valley. This technical feasibility proved that this could go on any numbered highway in the province. So we have the data, we're UBC in Kelowna, we use the data for this valley, but just understand, we're talking a technology, I call it a disruptor. We're actually talking to federal agencies too about the fact this could go anywhere in Canada, on any slope, including the slope down to Okanagan Falls at 7-8%. This is a light rail vehicle, this is not a freight train. It's really important to keep that in mind. There's route flexibility.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to the board and I'll start with Director Coyne. Had a question.
Yeah, I got lots, but Gord, as you know, I think this is a great idea. So you said you've already talked to the North Okanagan and Central. Are they on favor, or where are they at on this? Because I think, as you point out, this has to be a valley-wide approach. It can't just be a between Penticton and Kelowna approach when we don't even have buy-in for regional transit yet between here and there.
So North Okanagan Regional District, a lot of nods around the table. It was early days in the research, and we were just discussing, wanted to hear what people's questions were just to finalize, so we could get the papers published with at least some feedback on that. But nods in the room. I didn't ask for a letter of support or anything like that. Being a researcher, not a politician, didn't even think to ask for a letter of support. Central Okanagan communities, I can't speak for them, and probably puts me in direct conflict to actually speak. But let's just say we've met at staff levels just to share our research with City of Vernon planners, District of Lake Country planners. I can't really talk to the City of Kelowna planners. I'm not allowed to. We haven't met with West Kelowna yet, but nods is probably the best way I can say this, General. The other communities that we haven't spoken to, by the way, that we have spoke to are First Nations. So it's Indian Band, Penticton. My other research team member that's working on this specific project is self-identified Cannon Lake Indian Band. So she's actually been making connections for me to Indigenous communities to hear what they have to say. And actually, they have probably shown a lot of interest in that regard behind this technology. So
Go ahead.
What about at the province? Have you just started these discussions with the, what is it now, MOT?
MOT, Ministry of Transportation and Transit, absolutely. No, I don't think it's appropriate. This research, as Dr. Busher was saying, starting from the bottom up, is, for me, buttressing the foundation of the research. The technical and economic feasibility using their template. And we have talked to staff in the regional planning office in Kamloops and asked them for their business case template, which is the basis for our 2 papers. We had independent peer reviews on the research. We drove the valley with a rail contractor, one of Western Canada's largest. So the short answer is no, not yet, because.
So one last thing then. I'm going to strongly suggest you guys reach out to them, because the $3 million planning, I mean, they pay for planning for municipalities all the time, so we can do transit planning and transportation planning. And we all are doing these patchwork of planning for these interconnectivity. And if UBCA was to, say, take the lead on that and create a transit plan for the whole valley, I think we could probably, I don't want to speak for everybody, but it would be a lot easier to bring it to tables like this when we have a regional transit system that takes us to Kelowna. And we are working on a regional transit system from Princeton to here. We have one from Osoyoos to here so that we can use it as a hub. And that would help all of us be able to plan going forward. And the ones with the deep pockets are the province, not the, as you know, the local government. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through the chair.
By
If
all
I can
means,
just respond.
respond.
Thank you for that great advice, and I would be absolutely delighted to. I'm going to the province for a planning study. We need partners, and so I'll just leave that as hanging in the air, that we'd probably need some regional districts to partner with us to do something like that.
Okay, I've got a few people on the list here. We'll start with Director Bloomfield and then Bush.
And thank you, and thanks for the presentation. And it's something that I know, Gord, you and I have talked about on previous occasions. And you answered my technical question, which was, what grade of elevation would the trains handle? And obviously, it's not like the old KVR, which had to be built on a 2% grade, as our CAO probably knows from his dad. But yeah, so it's interesting to know that it can be utilized on any stretch of road. But what I wanted to say was, following up on what Director Coyne was saying, recently, a couple of years ago, I was in Britain and I was in Edinburgh, and they were putting in an LRT on the north side of the city, going out to the Firth of Forth, and which is a coastal section close to the city. And it hadn't been built when I was there, but I went out to the area where it was going to, and the amount of economic investment in that area in anticipation of that rail system going to that area was outstanding. And so I think, I don't know if you've got any studies or if you follow, if you're checking up on what economic impact it's had on in locations around the world where they've installed LRTs, and see what the response is like, and see what the economic investment has been like in those areas. And I think that would be a really interesting piece of information to have when you're talking about planning where it should go and how it should go.
Go ahead, by all means, respond.
I just don't want to be disrespectful, so sorry, but I'm just asking. So yes, it's actually when we had this in Karlsruhe and installed the first line, which goes out to a little city. So Karlsruhe was something like 300,000 people living there, and it goes the first line to a city called Bretten, which is I never heard about this before, and it is something like 10,000 people living there. And everybody was thinking, oh, okay, the economical impact would be to the larger city. And it was the other way around. It's the smaller cities that got the economic advantage out of this tram train. So that makes it so interesting. It's not that the way that Karlsruhe was losing it. So the region itself was gaining against regions that doesn't have something like this. So that's the most important point in that. You attract economy, to that region, and especially not to the center of the region. It's especially also to the region itself, to the smaller communities. And by the way, by increasing the frequency of the tram, it was even much easier to install local bus systems. So as I mentioned before, you have more people on your local buses with a train rather than without a train. That helps you improving your bus system because you have more income on bus tickets with the same amount of buses. I mean, that helps quite a lot in the discussions with the local politicians in Germany, at least.
All right, thanks for that, Director Bush, and then Director Holmes.
Yeah, good morning, Gord. So are these tracks just laid on the roads or highways? Is that how it works? Because we've used up all our trails, our railroad trails.
So through the chair, that's going to be the main purpose of the planning study. We're going to look at do nothing, buses only, a tram train, and the outcome has to be each community being engaged to say, where would you like it? We used the highway because we had convenient data. We also knew it had the steepest hills because we knew the KVR, exactly as Mr. Chair's already mentioned, Mayor Bloomfield, is a 2% slope max. Like that's the easy route, but it's also across a lot of beachfront and property impacts. So where it goes on the highway, up the hill, down the hill, along the waterfront, Peachland's a perfect example, Beach Avenue or the highway or up above. You could probably imagine your own exactly. Should it be the bike path, the Trans-Canada Trail? These in Europe, single track is what we're talking about between cities, not a double set of, one track northbound, one track southbound. Because of, in Germany, Karlsruhe experience, between cities, you only need a single track with passing at stations. So given that narrower right-of-way that you'd need, it could fit down, for example, Summerland on the way here, right down the middle of the highway. Take that single Jersey barrier that's there, move it to twin it, and put it right down the middle. In communities, it's really your call on the highway, and absolutely Mott would want to be involved. We know that. That's why I can't answer that definitively. I'm beating around the bush on purpose.
So,
I think the doctor wanted to respond as well. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity, but I just want to mention, yes, you can look it like this, but you don't have to. As you have seen on the first slide of the presentation, on the center picture, you can embed it just straight away in the road. So you just have the two metal things that you can see, and everything is hidden by just the normal road. Or what the improvement could be for the city itself. So could be you put some grass inside, which makes it looks nicer and fresher. So you can decide, it's a community decision whether you want the train going along the bypass along 97, or if you say, no, we want to have people within exactly in our town, you can do it in Main Street also. So these kind of trains are fully capable of going 100 kilometers per hour next to the highway, because then you don't share anymore at these 100 kilometers per hour. But if you go just within a town, you usually go, it's like 30, 50 kilometers per hour, whatever you go in your city, you can easily share the same track with the cars if you want to. If you don't want to, you can do it on a separate way, say just as a cycle lane, or if you just walk in lane or whatever. So you have all the flexibility, and just hold this one, as every ASIL is powered, that's a secret on that one. You can go minimum 8%. And we have examples in Germany that has even more than that.
Follow up, Director Bush?
Yeah, just, I think where this would really work right away, it'd be Victoria up the island because they have that abandoned rail there and it's just still sitting there and nobody's sold it or bought it or.
Mr. Chair, we've actually already had conversations with them, and they love the idea. There's another group, South Fraser Community Rail between Chilliwack and Surrey, same thing, interurban tracks still exist there, and they would love to see this. And we call it a tram-dash train, so it operates at streetcar speeds, or tram, as they call it in Europe, in cities, and then at train speeds between cities, hence the dash in between the two words.
Okay, interesting. Director Holmes, and then Gilbert.
Thanks, Gord. I love the idea. I always have since I've started talking to you about it. I kind of agree with Director Coyne. I think once the planning study is done and everything, we really need to escalate it from the research stage to the political stage and create a buzz and build that momentum. I think that's get some excitement going about this. My questions kind of follow up on Director Bush is there are some places along that highway where there probably shouldn't even be a highway, never mind anything else. I'm thinking specifically between Summerland and Peachland. That I can't imagine how you're going to wedge a rail track in there too, unless you start a conversation about converting the highway to single lane rather than four lanes. We had for quite a while we were lobbying the government to put a bike lane between Summerland and Penticton. And they did, we convinced them to do a study. They paid for the study, they did it, and it came back at $35 million or something just to put in a bike lane. And it's, sorry, you don't have the money for that. So I just wondering, I guess my concern is how do you get over that? I mean, yes, everything is possible at a cost, but at where you get some of these pinch points, how do you justify the cost?
You're talking about, through the chair, the section that's currently down at 50 kilometers an hour. And my gut, just not knowing details, is that is 200 million and climbing. So you're talking $100 million per kilometer to add to 4-lane of highway, so for 2 lanes of highway. And the average cost of 4-lane or widening the highway is typically around 20 million plus. And this is 5 million. So it's half to a quarter the cost. We're talking single track. And let me just, there was a resilience word on that Y benefits slide. In railway engineering jargon, we call it shoe fly. And I don't know if many of you followed the November 21 floods and how there were washouts along the Coquihalla. Who rescued those stranded motorists? I mean, helicopter was some of them, but they actually bucked up a VIA rail train. And there's story after story over the decades. Hurricane Katrina in Houston, where the first mode that gets in is rail. It's much quicker to either detour or rebuild a rail line, a single set of tracks, than to repair overpasses and bridges and 4-lane highway. So for example, getting people around there, you wouldn't have had to close, yes, you had to close the highway, but you wouldn't have had to close rail shoe fly detouring around that while they're working on it. I mean, rail is resilient. And think about emergency management. I mean, communities from up north, help me out, Hay River? No, Slave Lake? The huge problem. It was one big traffic jam. And Fort Mac before that, where you have access to the ability to take 200 cars off the road per vehicle. This thing's really no longer than a Rocky Mountain double truck. It's no heavier. It goes over the existing floating bridge. We don't need, we just saved the $3 to $5 billion bridge cost everybody's calling for. So it's more affordable than traditional tailpipe solutions, and it's resilient. Oh, Mr. Chair, I think Dr. Holder wants to
Sure,
jump in.
go ahead.
Just one single thing to mention in here is, so if you have a highway that's about 30 meters on width, paved with concrete completely, so you have to handle that water that's raining on that one. If you look at the track, you see the water just going through that. So it's quite much easier to handle because the water is just goes there where it always went to, and this one is just 150, something like this. So so you need less space, and you pave less space. That makes handling of water much easier.
Okay, Director Gilbert and Coyne and Taylor.
Yeah, thank you to the chair, and I appreciate the presentation and look forward to hopefully further work on it. And I would say too, even to look at this, to create like a working group maybe with SILGA, getting the communities together as a way. My only concern with it, and hopefully the trend's not going this way, is it seems to be that the province is not giving money out to a lot of communities when it comes to transit. We're seeing that in the lower mainland right now, where the government rather put their name on a big project but refuse to pay for the operation of it. So hopefully by the time this project, if it goes through, the province is more willing to give money to public transit and more affordable, making cities more affordable with that. So but yeah, I think having a working group at SILGA would probably be a good idea to get the communities that are in the first part of planning together to talk about it, to get that political push.
Thank you, Mr.
Good
Chair. Thank
suggestion.
you very much for that comment. Yeah, absolutely. I hadn't thought of that, so I'll let my SILGA, if I can put my political hat on for a second, I'll let my SILGA colleagues champion that one. I've been focused on, yes, talking to many of you in the room, but also buttressing the research so that when we get to the point of advocating, which Jonathan is taking good notes, I hope you don't mind, Mr. Chair, to do, we've got the research to answer those questions. Because one piece of advice my valued colleague to my left has given me is, Gord, have all the answers ready, because you're going to typically get only one shot as you go to higher levels of government on this thing.
Makes sense. Director Coyne and then Taylor, and I think we need to move on. So.
Yeah. So when Director Holmes was talking about the, where you're going to, and then Director Bush too, where you're going to put it. So I know you're from Germany and you get snow there. So how does this work when you lay it in the middle of a road and you got snow and you got compact snow? How do you clean the track and all that? And how does that work? Does it slow things down? Does it cause complications? Because we do get, not so much in the Okanagan, but especially on our side of the mountain, if we get all kinds of snow, right? Sometimes.
How you handle this depends on the amount of snow you're talking about. So if you have 1 meter high snow, then you usually go just like you did on a road. You just have one of these snowplow machines moving the snow away. And a nice thing on this one is, as the train just has this much on surface to cover. So actually each wheel only hits the rail on a thumb size, just this much. So the train is able to remove the snow on top of these steel things. That's great, isn't it? By itself. So you just go, if you have it in Main Street, and you just go with your normal snow plug on top of that one, that's fine. And then you just go with the train, and that's it. So yes, it's possible to handle all kind of snow with any ways. So as soon as you can't get the train along, I'm certainly sure no car will move anymore. So so there shouldn't be that much of a problem with any kind of snow. And at least basically what happens if you have ice in Germany, that stops trains from moving because the catenary system is iced, and then you can't get the electricity out of it. But you get rid of this because we're just using a hydrogen fuel cell, so we don't have that problem in winter.
Thanks for that. Director Taylor.
Yeah, I think these are, I don't know, time frame, maybe 10, 20-year time frame in which to get something like this done. I think we're going to see the trend towards the need for this vastly increased. My kids are not interested in buying cars if they can avoid it. I really like the idea of identifying all the questions first, and I would encourage you to look for those pinch points. And with all due respect, Summerland is one, but there's some below Penticton and above Vernon that are, other than elevating in the air, I'm not quite sure how the hell you'd get around it. But I really feel that we wouldn't get the opportunity to do this unless we really advocate hard for it. It will go to Chilliwack, Surrey. It will go to southern Vancouver Island. It will not go to the Okanagan. So, and I would much rather it went to the Okanagan. So I would encourage you to figure a way of doing that preliminary research sooner than later so that we can get on board for this kind of thing, because it's, to my way of thinking, 20 years out, but we got to start the plan now, or 10 years out, but we still got to start now.
Okay, response, go ahead, please.
Mr. Chair, I couldn't agree with you more. My experience and expert opinion is that 10 years from the start of planning, this will be in operation. We need $3 million to get that planning study done, because that's the secret to mobilizing community engagement, confirming routes and costs. Because if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. But we can then go after P3s, partners, and that's the secret sauce here. Developers, lead agencies, pension funds that are looking for somewhere to put their dollars, and things like that. The political will absolutely, so thank you for that, that we do need to nail down, get our answers, ducks in a row. And then absolutely, you know, who's come out of the woodwork so far? We have the lead legal director for one of the largest North American P3 companies that's done all the major transit systems in North America in the last 10 years, living in Naramata. We have one of the largest green bond fund, so financiers, living in Kelowna. People are coming out of the woodwork. And TOTA, so Thompson Okanagan Tourism Association, approached me and found $25,000 to go and do a valley survey. I mean, everyone we're asking and talking to, they're coming out of the woodwork, but they're absolutely behind this. We're just trying to do it in a way that sustains the momentum. I sense support, but you're all under the budget gun and tax. I heard you deliberating just before this item. So I just want to assure you as a researcher, not as a politician, that we really want to do as well a job preparing and buttressing for this, because one of the plagues of big projects and how big things don't get done is called optimism bias. So we actually, in our preliminary design for just the highway, assuming a Soyuz to Kamloops, we did all our costs using our best experts around the world. Then we doubled them. We looked at all the benefits, including economic benefits. We cut those in half. We then looked at what the provincial business case template is, and then we looked at travel time and road crashes. So we said, okay, let's just look at those. And we're still at 2-to-1 benefit cost ratio. We've used the best experts in the world, those that have done it, to be, and we are at 2-to-1. And just as a comparison, I'll leave you with this, Mr. Chair, the Surrey to Langley SkyTrain, the most recent $250 million per kilometer project, because it's elevated, et cetera, that was justified using that same business case template. Their benefit cost ratio was 1.02 to 1. So clearly it is about the money, but it's actually about governance and political will. So before we go there, let's get the science and the data in place so they can be evidence-informed, data-informed decision. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair, and everyone in the room for your time.
Okay, one more quick response and then
I just want to say thank you also, and the most important thing is the wish to want to have it. So just see how it makes your life easier. And after that, that's what the study will show, and then you find an engineer who's doing it. So it's people first, then politician, then the engineer can decide how to build it, and the study will exactly give you the answer, what is possible and how much must it cost.
okay, well, thank you, entire group, for the presentation. It's interesting, and I'm sure we'll hear more about it in the future, and wish you luck with the process as it goes. Thanks. Look for a motion to adjourn this meeting. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move straight into the regular board meeting. Opportunity here to remove anything off the consent agenda if there's a desire to do that. Director Taylor.
Yes, I'd like to remove item A21.
A21, okay, that will go into the main body of the agenda. Anything else to be moved off consent? Seeing none, looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved, seconded, thank you. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda, corporate issues, looking for a motion on that one. Moved, thank you. A seconder, great. All in favor? Thanks. Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda, development services, motion on that one. Mover, thank you. Seconded, thanks. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to item B, which is the closed session. That in accordance with section 91A, C, E, and 2B of the Community Charter, the board closed the meeting to the public on the basis of personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality, or another position appointed by the municipality, labor relations, or other employee relations, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that the disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality, and that the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality and the provincial government or the federal government, or both, or between a provincial government or federal government, or both, and a third party. So looking for a motion to go in camera. Moved, seconded, thank you. All in favor? Thanks. Any opposed? That motion carries. Agricultural Land Commission referral in Area C, CAO.
Thank you. Be right with you. Technical difficulties. No. Is it working for you? Okay, can you, I'm gonna, while my computer's being fixed, can you just, yep. Yes.
Okay, we're getting going here, folks. Ms. Cram?
So this is the DVP Development Variance Permit Application, Electoral Area D.
No, we're C.
C?
Yeah, C1.
Okay.
It's okay. I think I fixed it.
You think? Okay.
I believe so. So this is got to do with, okay, the purpose of this report is an application has been submitted to the Agricultural Land Commission under section 20.3.5 of the Agricultural Land Commission Act and referred to the regional district in order to permit placement or fill of land in the agricultural land reserve. With the recommended motion is that the district of Regional District of Okanagan Small Community Board authorize the application to place fill within the ALR at 7910 Highway 97 to proceed to Agricultural Land Commission. Staff's here to answer your questions.
Okay, Director Chahal, direction on this one?
Thank you. Yeah, through the chair, I would like to move the administrative recommendation.
Okay, moved and seconded. It's on the floor. Any discussion? Questions, Director Taylor?
Yeah, I'm just curious, the packing house is going to be for whom? Like, because that's a relatively small piece of property.
Yeah, it's a 1 hectare property. He's currently, he's got some greenhouses there. He's planted some tree fruits and in the application is to, he's using the facility to package those fruits.
Okay, so it would be own use. Staff, do you know, is that 100% own use or is it a mix?
Yeah, it'd be specific to the property itself, so 100%.
Okay. Any follow-up to that, Director Taylor?
Well, I guess I'm just curious. I mean, is a commercial packing house permitted on that property, like for bringing stuff in from other properties to process there? Is that legal? Because I could kind of see that potentially happening.
Go to staff on that one.
So through the chair, so it's a bit of a challenging situation for us because, of course, we have a commercial C1 zoning on the property. But the Land Commission has told us previously that they don't recognize that zoning. So under the ALC regs, packing, processing, retail of fruit is allowed, but the Commission does have a 50% requirement, but that's not reflected in the regional district zoning bylaws. So from our perspective, packing and processing is permitted. The best we could ascertain from this particular application, the main issue seems to be the placement of fill, but we're hopeful that if there is an issue in relation to how much produce is coming from the subject property versus coming from elsewhere, that that'll be sorted out by the Commission when they take a look at the application.
Okay. Director Bloomfield?
Yeah, thanks, and through the chair. And can you tell me if, given the past history of this property and the uses that it has had in the past, has there been any environmental assessment done on the current soils on the property? And does the Agricultural Land Commission have a position on that in this application?
Staff?
So through the chair and for the board's benefit, so there is some previous enforcement history with this particular parcel. I believe, I want to say 5 to 7 years ago, some activity was undertaken where the topsoil was stripped off and gravel was placed for the purposes of outdoor storage. As I recall, that was subject to enforcement action by the Commission. And I believe the Commission placed an order on the property owner to restore the site to agricultural use. As the regional district, we haven't been party to those activities, but of course we can see what's been going on and that the gravel has been removed and that there is soil on the site. But as an organization, we haven't required or seen any sort of soil assessment in terms of the quality of that soil, where it came from, and if it's suitable for agriculture. Again, I would assume that's something that the Commission would have dealt with through their enforcement action.
Okay. Anything further on this? Seeing none. Rural vote, oh no, corporate vote, my mistake. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Over to section D. D1, Frank Venable.
No,
Did I miss one?
You have the item removed from consent agenda?
That's correct. You're right. So that would be item from the consent. I will go to the CAO on that one.
So in the consent, it was A2.1, and it's in regards to development variance permit application for electoral area D, with the recommended motion is a development variance permit number D 2025.006 DVP to allow for the construction of 2 retaining walls at 162 Salonic Drive be approved. Staff's here to answer questions.
Okay, Director Taylor.
This property was brought before the board earlier. It was declined. I'm happy to move it forward in a revised way as it is now. And just want to thank staff and the owner.
Okay, so you're moving the
I'm moving.
motion. Is there a seconder? Thank you. Any discussion on it? Seeing none. This one would be a rural vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now down to D1, Frank Venables Theater Lease, CAO.
Thank you. So this is in regards to Frank Venables Theater lease, sublease, and operating agreement with the recommended motion that the Board of Directors authorize the Chair and Chief Administrative Officer to execute the Frank Venables Theater lease renewal between the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen and School District 53, and that the Board of Directors authorize the Chair and the Chief Administrative Officer to execute the Frank Venables Theater sublease renewal between the Regional District of the Okanagan-Similkameen and again, School District 53, and that the Board of Directors authorize the Chair and Chief Administrative Officer to execute the Frank Venables Theater operating agreement renewal between the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen and other theater societies. And one thing that I'm pleased to announce is that we do have an agreement with them to, they're going to have our logo on there. One of the things that I'm pursuing, and it's mandatory as far as I'm concerned, if it's taxpayer funded, our logo appears there. And staff's here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Director Johansson's moving it, I'm assuming. It's seconded. It's on the floor. Any discussion on this? Director Taylor?
Yeah, just generally in support of the direction we're going here, I'd like to ask a question and then a comment. Was there an advisory committee in the past?
Can't recall.
Your Worship, I'm not aware that there was an advisory, sorry, not Your Worship, Chair, my apologies.
Oh, I don't know, Your Worship is fine.
That's my municipal background coming through. Apologies, Chair. I'm not aware that there was an advisory committee, but we have discussed with the school district that we will be setting one up.
Okay. Follow up?
Strong support of the motion and of the use of the advisory committee, but in my observation, advisory committees can get into trouble. And I'd like to understand, or I'd like to ensure that we have clear chain of command. They understand what their role is and what it isn't. And that there's a defined way of elevating stuff from there to this board. I'm sure the school district will worry about that side of it. I'm worried about seeing stuff elevated from the community through that advisory committee to our board if necessary.
So clear terms of reference.
Okay.
Okay. Anything further there? Seeing none, this is again corporate vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Down to D2, Similkameen Recreation, CAO.
Thank you, Chair. In this case here, first of all, just so everyone knows, I am still having technical difficulties, but I've read every single report, but my memory's not 100% exactly correct. So in this case here, it is regarding the Similkameen Recreation Area, and this recommended motion is that the Board of Directors approve the 100% funding grant application of up to $5,000 for the BC Rehab Foundation, and the staff here to answer your questions.
Okay. Direction on this? Anybody? Director Bush is moving it. Seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? CAO has something to add.
Just one thing before the board accepts this, just be aware, this is a trial, but it may lead to a taxation increase next year. So that's something you need to be aware of.
Okay, Director Roberts, question, go ahead.
Thank you through the chair. One thing would be a follow-up question or a little bit more depth in regards to what the CAO stated. And the other thing is a statement just, again, constantly advocating for accessibility projects around the rec center. Happy to see, where we're going and, appreciate the challenges. But I'd like to have a little bit more information in regards to the taxation issue, good, bad, or otherwise. Thank you.
Okay, staff.
Thank you. Through the chair,
This year in 2025, we don't see any negative impact on taxation or on the budget. We had planned in our strategic priorities to be looking into prescribed recreation this year anyway, so this grant would actually just supplement and support us in doing a bit more this year. Moving into 2026, it's a little hard to say the precise fiscal impacts at this point because this year is an investigatory year and will determine a lot of the outcomes from the trial. But we do envision actually very minimal fiscal impacts, and they will be very controllable. I say that because we can define the prescription, the amount of prescription, and what is prescribed, as long as it works, obviously, for the health professionals to do that. And quite often the prescriptions will be part of existing services or existing operations. For example, a prescription for access to the gym. It may add minimal extra wear and tear to the gym, but we're not getting any costs incurred apart from that minimal wear and tear. Or prescriptions may be towards existing programs and services. So we foresee it being a minimal impact in the future. We do look after the trial to come back to the board with recommendations for the following year, 2026, later this year.
Okay. Anything further? Not seeing any hands. Call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Down to legislative services. Assent voting results for the incorporation of OK Falls, CAO.
So thank you. In this case here, there is no recommendation, but this is to satisfy the requirements of Local Government Act for the Chief Election Officer to submit a report of the assent voting results to the local government. So if there's any questions, staff's here to answer.
Director Taylor.
Yeah. I support, obviously, the release of this information to the province. I'm concerned at the passage of time. It's already a month. And I understand entirely that it's procedural. But we're only just now formally informing the province, as I see it. And I'd appreciate if the RDOS would request the province to move expeditiously for letters patent and before the House rises this spring and the fall election.
CAO?
Discuss this with staff and it's their priority.
Okay. So this was just information. There's no motion required. Okay, that would take us down to E2, but I think we should rise and report first. Is that correct here? I'll go to Ms. Cram for a rise and report.
So I'd like to report out in open meeting that at today's closed session, the board discussed the matter of a potential purchase at 3547 Skaha Lake Road. And that leads us to the loan authorization bylaw that is next on the agenda.
Okay, so E2, loan authorization bylaw, CAO.
Thank you. So this purpose of this report is to provide the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen with the legislative authority to borrow up to $10 million to purchase a corporate building within the city of Penticton limits. With the recommended motion is the loan authorization bylaw 3106-2025, a bylaw of the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen to authorize the borrowing of up to $10 million to purchase a corporate building within the city of Penticton, be read a first, second, and third time, and be forwarded to the Inspector of Municipalities for approval, and that the maximum term for which debentures may be issued to secure the debt created by this bylaw is 30 years, and that upon approval of the Inspector, approval of the loan authorization bylaw 3106-2025 be obtained from the electorate within the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen through an alternate approval process in accordance with the Local Government Act, and that the deadline for submitting electoral response forms in relation to the loan authorization bylaw number 3106-2025 to the corporate officer is no later than 4:30 on Thursday, July 31st, 2025, and that the electoral response for attached to the report dated April 17th, 2025 be the approved form to the loan authorization bylaw 3106-2025 alternate approval process, and that the total number of electors to which the electoral approval process applies is 75,283, and the number of electoral responses required to prevent the bylaw from the proceeding without a referendum is 7,528. Staff's here to answer questions, and I believe that there is a PowerPoint that staff does have.
Okay, I'll ask staff to come up and do the PowerPoint, please.
And just going forward, when you look at the reports at the very bottom, it will actually tell you now if there's a PowerPoint that's going to be submitted or not.
Okay, I'll go over to staff. Go ahead, as soon as you get up. All right, who's starting?
I'd like to just bring to the board's attention that the property at 3547 Skaha Lake Road, we have a brief PowerPoint, just it reflects a little bit of what was discussed earlier today in the meeting in closed session, but for the public's sake, there's a map of the property here, and I believe there's another couple of slides with respect to the potential purchase of this property.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so this slide's, as shown earlier, is the location of the property in question that we're looking to acquire. And the purpose of this draft borrowing bylaw is to continue the process as due diligence in terms of the purchase for the property as we go through the other items prior to the agreement across the board for the purchase of the property. So as you can see, the location there, the southern end of Penticton. And here's a street view of the said property. It's known colloquially as the Windward Building. They are currently the major tenant of that building. The graph.
Okay, one more slide.
The impact on property taxes on a yearly basis would be, we've estimated it to be $1.23 per $100,000 of assessment, property assessment. So for example, a house that's assessed at $1 million of property, we're looking at about $12.32 a year would be the impact. Obviously, right now, interest rates are fluctuating a little bit, so this is our best estimate at the time.
And also worst case scenario, correct?
And worst case, absolutely.
Great. Anything further? Okay, looking for direction from the board on this. Someone prepared to move this one? Moved? Seconded? Any discussion? Director Coyne.
Yeah, I just want to ask for clarification on a few things. So right now, we have this building and we're renting 2 other buildings. So just so the public understands, this would bring all of our staff into one location. We'd be able to get rid of 2 leases, sell this place, and then use that to recoup some of the costs, correct?
CAO or staff?
That is correct. The 2 leases right now, the amount of money that we're spending will help reduce the debt servicing. So it's not going to be the full amount, and you are correct. If the board allows it, the recommendation is that we would sell this property to help pay for the new property.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything further, Director Coyne?
No, I just wanted to make it clear so the public understands that right now, this isn't our only facility and we're leasing properties,
Okay.
which doesn't bring money back to us.
Absolutely. I've got Director Fedrigo and then Monteith.
Thank you, the chair. Will this be on regional connections and what information will be available for the public?
CAO or Ms. Cram?
This will be on regional connections. We will include this brief PowerPoint that you just saw right now and a little bit additional information such as the fact that we would be looking to potentially sell this parcel here and cancel or otherwise sublease our other properties where staff are located. Forms and notice will be on regional connections, as well as there will be the statutory advertising as required under the Local Government Act. And we also have a section for frequently asked questions, so anytime anyone asks a question, the question and the answers appear on there as well.
CAO?
And there's also a press release after this meeting if this passes.
Okay. Director Monteith?
Thank you, through the chair. I understood that the other properties that we're currently using are being paid for through the COVID funding. So how is that fitting into your statement? And would we not be making money because we've already paid for those rentals ahead of time?
CAO?
So one of them isn't, that's taxpayers' money. The other one, the COVID money expires in 2 years, and then we're paying out of the taxpayers' pocket.
Okay, Director Taylor?
Yeah, much of some of the other questions, just like the public to be aware, 2 points. We're not responsible for balance of lease costs if we terminate early. And secondly, that out-of-town locations have been considered in the process but ruled out for various reasons such as staff retention.
CAO?
So for the second question, not just staff retention, but the other outside areas that we looked at would require building from scratch. In this case here, we've got pre-existing building, and 2023, there was a report that came out that stated that we're looking at $20+ million. And that's, if you looked at some of the histories out there, new construction, I'm not going to name any places, but it's materially increased. And so the risk for an increase for taxpayers is reduced because we have a control number. As far as the other two leases goes, there are opting out clauses, but one of them is we want to be fair for the one specific area is we can sublease one because there is some interest in it. We put in a lot of work into it. So there are some options in getting out of those other two leases. And as stated, one of them is less than 2 years left.
Okay. Any further discussion? Director Bush?
When can we move?
I'll go to the CAO.
Well, I believe the takeover of the building, once the ultimate approval process is done, is we will own it and have ability to go in, walk in is August. But within that money that we're asking to borrow is transition fees. We have to set up your boardroom. We have to set up the office spaces. So I'm estimating late October, early November, I start moving in. I don't see all of us going at one time because I don't want to. We have to keep the government rolling. So it would be in a slow process. By the end of this year, my goal is for us to move in.
Okay. Director Coyne online.
There's one thing that this is the first time I really appreciate the street view picture of the building today because it shows there is a transit stop directly in front of the building, which will make it more accessible, greatly accessible for local residents and people coming as we improve our transit system. I think that's a really big deal, actually. So really great to see that. Thank you.
Good point. Thanks for noticing that. Director or CAO, go ahead.
One other benefit is parking. There is at least 150 parking spots with the majority in a secure area, so it protects our vehicles. And staff no longer have to park at, shouldn't say this in front of the Penticton directors here, at the beach.
Okay, Director Coyne Jr.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Is this going to impact the city of Penticton's revenue sources here?
Our on-street parking, you mean? Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Great. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for that. Down to CAO report. CAO.
So there's a verbal report and actually a hard copy report that you've seen. I'd like to do the F2 first. There was a proposal, recommendation in the way of I would say a notice of motion. And the notice was to add a new unplanned project to the 2025 plan and to come back with a recommendation. Only the board could add something and only the board can take something out. In this case here, the director that made this request stated that he's willing to take out one of his projects, which had 1,025 hours for the OCP. However, it doesn't not work like that. That 1,025 hours is for one specific division. So you have to go back and look at what divisions will be impacted and come back with the formula of what will work. In your report, it actually has 3 different projects that would have to be removed to add this one. And one of the things that is important to be aware of is while you can authorize a review, the province has to rubber stamp it. So because it's no use spending all that time and money and then going to the province and says, don't bother, we're not interested. But if this does go through with the board approval, it would be in conjunction with asking the board, the province to authorize it. So with that, the recommended motion is that the board of directors direct staff to adjust the work schedule and include the electoral area boundary review in the 2025 plan, and that the projects recommended in page 2 of this report be moved to the 2026 work plan with, and I don't usually do this, the alternate recommendation, because that's equally as important, that the board of directors direct staff not to adjust the work plan as scheduled for the 2025.
Okay, so where does the board want to go with this? Director Taylor?
I think there's a lot that needs to be said on this. I'd like to see this discussed in a workshop amongst the electoral area directors prior to bringing it to the board table.
So you were
So I would
basically
move for a
deferral
pending
until we
a
could have
recommendation coming forward from the workshop.
hold a workshop on it. Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Deferring? Seconded? Usually don't discuss deferrals, so I will call the question. Oh, Director Roberts does have your hand up, but we're not going to get into a discussion on deferral if we can avoid it. So I'm going to leave it at that. Call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? You need the opposed, Director Monteith and Bush? And I don't think I missed anybody else, but the motion would carry. CAO, do you want to continue your
Verbal update and
verbal update?
And then celebrating our wins. I've got Mr. Hatch here. He's going to be talking about the strategic priority tracker. You all received an email stating that there's been a change in reporting structure for communications. Communications now reports directly to the CAO. Biggest single immediate change is that we now will be doing ongoing mailouts and wherever we can to save money, because the CPA and these will never go away. We will be mailing, majority of the mailouts will be when we do our billings. So just like any local municipalities, we do billings for curbside, we do for waters and sewer. There's going to be times when it doesn't meet those needs. One of the very first tests will be Sage Mesa. So it'll be one mail out stating all of the different meetings that we have. There's a specific template that has now been established, and thank you communications, where the template's always the same. The information will be different every time. Also, what's next meeting, the final efficiency report that was Mr. Nielsen has provided to the board will be coming to you to say what we did, where we're at, what was positive, what was negative, and it's going to have staff comments. So that's coming next meeting in May. And with that, I'll leave this. Mr. Hatch has got some updates on the strategic priority tracker. Again, I don't have a bell yet, but we do have one project that was finished since last meeting.
Okay, so you're ringing that proverbial bell, okay?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Mr. Hatch.
Thank you. So we have a total of 196 actions on the 2025 work plan. And just to provide a bit of an update, this will just take just a moment. We're currently about 29% through the year this year, and 8 actions have now been completed. So 3 more than 2 weeks ago when it was last updated, and representing an overall average about 19% of our completion. So of those 196, we're 19% through progress. Staff are being reminded to regular update those actions because we're tracking them bi-weekly and providing these updates. And it's important to note that as the year progresses, various actions may be scheduled later in the year to begin. So we'll sort of see a ramp up of progress as we get into the summer and fall months. So the percentage may stay low, similarly to how it did last year. But as we get into the later months, those progress will continue to climb. There's 3 recently completed actions just to highlight. There was the completion of purchasing portable fire pumps as part of a CEPF grant led by the Naramata Fire Department. For the Oliver landfill, the purchase of processing equipment for the site led by Public Works Solid Waste. And at the Naramata Fire Hall, the storage room addition has been completed, led by the Naramata Fire Department. And looking ahead to 2026, we already have 57 actions identified on that list with an estimated 11,208 FTE hours already allocated towards those projects, which is roughly about 1/3 of this year's work plan. So we've already started to build next year, and as there's adjustments and new actions being added, that's where they're placed, but we've already got about 1/3 of that work set aside. And that completes the update.
Okay, thank you for that. And slowly but surely, we're lowering that number of projects on that big list. So good news. Down in the agenda to the chair's report, as the CAO had mentioned, him and myself are both going to Victoria next week for the chair's CAO forum, and MFA is also just the day after that, so I'll be there for that. And I did want to mention that I'm not sure if all the directors had gotten an email from Fortis in the last while in regards to their new policy about, potential new policy about shutting the power off in extreme weather events. I just wanted to let people know that I requested that we maybe have staff reach out to Fortis to attend, and I have been getting calls from other regional districts on this with some concerns as well. So keep it in mind, and staff's going to have a report to go with that to us in the near future. Director's motions, anything there?
Yep.
Director Coyne.
I have a notice of motion that the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen require the installation of an approved water meter on all new connections within a RDOS water service area, and that all commercial and accommodation properties, including those offering short-term rentals within the within a RDOS water service area, be required to install an approved water meter by December 31st, 2026, and further that effective January 1st, 2027, all commercial and accommodation properties within the RDOS water service area be subject to water meter billing. So that's for later.
Okay, that's a notice of motion.
And I did send you guys.
We'll discuss that at the next meeting, and hopefully there's a little more follow-up with that for information purposes. Any other director's motions? Not seeing anything. That brings us to board members' verbal updates. Anything to report from your communities? Director Taylor, did I see a hand, Director Bloomfield? So after Director Taylor, go ahead.
Yeah, just want to thank staff. We've been using your services a lot for referendums, community decisions. The OK Falls one was done, reported on that. Vintage Views wastewater system and Lakeshore Highlands water system just went as well. Staff's involvement in getting us to those votes, I think, was really important. I would like to see our utility acquisition process tweaked a little bit, because I really feel that the 3 presentations, it probably takes the public 3 times to get the message that what we're proposing, that it's worst case scenario, et cetera. And I would also like to see hard paper mailouts included as part of that as well. I think that whether it's a private system or improvement district, the RDOS needs to be very clear in what it's doing. And again, I just really think we need to tell the public they got to be repeated. It seems like it's repetitious to our staff and it takes time, but I think it's really part of getting to a successful endpoint. So thank you very much. And again, thanks to staff.
Okay. Director Bloomfield.
Yeah, and just want to let everybody know that just got back from Lethbridge and at a conference there, and it was a Health Canada conference, CCSA, which is the Canadian Centre for Substance Use and Addictions, and funded through Health Canada. And it was for mayors across the country, so of smaller and medium-sized cities. And I asked, when I was there, what population criteria they had, and they said no population criteria. It was really the information from the conference was geared towards all mayors of smaller and medium-sized cities. So if any mayors are interested in hearing some more about that and about what was discussed, and it was basically about the social issues that we have, obviously, with substance use and addictions and the effects on society and actions that can be done about it. They're creating a playbook of actions, and so it was a very useful conference. On another note, the mayor of Lethbridge was extremely excited about talking about the Penticton Vs joining the WHL or the Dub, as they call it. And I was a guest of his at the Lethbridge Hurricanes versus Calgary Hitmen game. And let me tell you, the level of hockey was it's a notch above, and the Vs have got their work cut out for them next season. But it certainly is pretty exciting hockey. So yeah, I look forward to that.
Okay, thank you for that report. Director McCordoff.
Yes, thank you. As you all know, I've been on the Border Mayors Alliance for a couple of months. There is a meeting this afternoon. Whether I'll get time to get on it or not, I'm not sure. I did send forward some information a couple of times. I do it to my council as well, and nobody has sort of responded. I'm thinking that maybe it's a little overkill because I think you hear lots of things about what's going on a daily basis on the news. So anybody who wants more information on that, happy to provide it, but I think we probably have overload on all of those issues right now. So what? That's true. So please contact me if there's anything that you want to question on, but it seems to sort of change daily and we're not quite sure where it's at next. So thanks.
Okay. Director Monteith.
Thanks to the chair. I don't believe the real director's got that. I didn't get it.
Nope.
Actually, it was sent out by the corporate officer a couple of times, not recently. Not within the last month. It was sent out to all directors. As far as I know, that was what was reported to me. Okay.
It might not have got there, but do check in your spams, as some things are getting caught up in there that not necessarily supposed to. But Director Taylor, you had a question? Okay. I think there was nobody else ahead of you, so okay.
I promise I won't have another one. I just wanted to say that we have, following the referendum in OK Falls, we do have community leaders already asking how they file their nomination papers. So with respect, I think we need to communicate to the province how this process will unfold.
Okay. CAO, you,
Currently, there is no official district of OK Falls, so it's,
until that happens.
until that happens, I think we just need to keep silent on that. We, as the board here does not have any authority to act on that question.
Okay. Director Coyne.
Yeah, a little different subject. May 22nd is mining days in Princeton. And I know it's a board day, but I would really like to invite the board as a whole to mining days. We get a tour of the mine, you get to see what the operation is. We can probably take the posse bus up the hill, and which is becoming a junior A team thanks to the V's and all you guys moving out. So we're becoming junior A. But yeah, no, it'd be wonderful if we could all come to Princeton and go up and see the mine and get that tour, and you get to go out through the mill and you get to see the pits and the trucks and everything and whatnot. So if you guys are interested, I'd love to have a roadshow day.
You get to drive one of the trucks. CAO?
If the board wishes, I can have staff look at the possibility of having a roadshow board meeting in Princeton, but I can get back to if the board wishes to consider that.
Is there anyone who's absolutely against that, or? Okay, well then we'll just say look into it and we'll see what it looks like.
Because it could also include virtual for those that can't come.
Yeah, okay. Any other reports from your municipalities or electoral areas? Seeing none, that brings us down to board representations. MFA is meeting next week. Municipal insurance, nothing to report there. OBWB, anything there, Director Holmes?
Yeah, so we had a meeting, board meeting on April 1st. That was the last meeting of Dr. Anna Warwick Sears as the CEO or executive director after 19 years. And her only real task there was to swear in the new executive director, Melissa Tesh. And so that was, it was sad to see Anna go. We also heard about the BC Well Act is being reviewed and the plans to amend it to include mandatory inspections for all watercraft coming into the province for invasive mussels. Currently, the law says that only boats only need to stop at inspection stations along their route if there is an inspection station, but not all routes have inspection stations. So now all boats, it'll be met by law, will have to be inspected coming into the province. So that's good progress on that. We also, speaking about UBCO engineering projects, we heard about this one project that they're developing there to design a modular drive-through watercraft decontamination tank for mussels. So basically you drive your boat through, it fills up with water, and it's decontaminates and then you keep driving it through. So it's quite an innovative project, and it's being advised by OBWB's Chief Operating Officer James Litley. So that's good innovation there. And then finally, the board approved this year's round of water conservation and quality improvement grants. We funded 15 out of 20 grant applications that were received. And that's, so the total amount of $350,000 funds available were given out. And those included 5 projects in the South Okanagan, including the Lower Chute Creek restoration being done by the Chute Creek Stewardship Society, and also the Twin Lakes Westland restoration being done by BC Wildlife Federation. And then there's one in Oliver, one in Summerland, and PIB got one to continue their Lower Trout Creek rehabilitation.
Good news. Thank you for that. Okanagan Film Commission, anything there, Director Coyne?
Nothing to report. They're working on a couple movies right now, but that's looking for locations.
Okay, okay. Regional Library, nothing there. Sterile insect release, Director Bush?
I send out the board report. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I would try answer.
No. Not seeing any hands there. Simia, anything, Director Coyne?
We're having our AGM May 13th.
Okay.
Maybe.
Maybe. Starling Control, Director Bush?
Yeah, Ms. Bloomfield had notified me about the increase of starlings at Campbell Mountain and the Oliver landfill. Campbell Mountain, we'd taken our traps out of there because they were reorganizing, so I got a hold of the coordinator and she's gonna get them back in.
Okay. Anything further there? Nothing? Okay. Economic Trust of Southern Interior. Director McCorduck?
No
Nothing?
meeting this month. Thank you.
All right. That brings us to the end. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance today.